So today I'm going to step you through making a breakbeat track from scratch. This is the track that we're going to be making. Alright, so step one for making electronic music breakbeat is we don't usually have access to a real recording drum kit or usually the skill to play it either. So what we do with breakbeat is we use pre-existing breaks, chop them up and design them for ourselves. So first of all, I'm going to go over to the tempo here and turn it down a little bit, maybe like 133. And then I'm going to look for some breakbeat loops. I know I've got some good ones in here. I'm just going to have a look through. That one's really nice. I like that one. I'm going to drag this into my MIDI track here and hit the warp button and then turn it on to maybe complex and let's see how that goes. That sounds pretty good. And I'm also going to put it onto slice mode as well and slice by beats. So this way we can actually trigger each of the individual beats of the sample as well. So this is how we kind of chop up breakbeat loops. So I can go like this and play each of the slices chromatically, or I can mess around with the slices and make a new break rhythm like this. You can see how triggering the different sample divisions in here can give you different results. We're essentially making a new drum loop via sampling. So this is really just emulating the way that sampler devices, the retro sampling devices, were actually cutting up breakbeat loops back in the day, and this is how they were making new breakbeats with them. They were re-triggering and mangling audio samples recorded from vinyls and re-triggering them like this. So I'm just going to make a 2-bar loop here, and I've got it to set to 1/4, and you can literally just go like this, step up chromatically, up the scale, and it's going to play the breakbeat loop as per usual. So actually what I need to do as well is actually start it at C1 instead of C3. That's where the slice regions begin from. So let's have a look at this. So now we actually have this freedom to move these regions around. So if I just want to loop it over, I can do like this, or if I want to sort of have a little bit of fun with it, I can start to do stuff like this. Maybe in this section we could duplicate this one and see what that does. So that sounds pretty good so far. We can also duplicate it over again and then make like another variation over this side. Maybe want to pull that forward and then maybe do like a double kick or something like this. So this, in my opinion, is the most simple way of doing it, but there's a lot of other different ways as well. And I'm just actually going to go into the browser where I found this loop. And another way of doing it is if you want a lot more control over each individual transient, what you can do is right click the actual thing in the browser and go down to slice to new MIDI track. Just make sure we're creating one slice per transient. And if you hit OK here, what it's actually going to do is it's going to spit out this MIDI file and it's going to place one MIDI note per transient in the loop that we have. Just to demonstrate visually what's going on, I'm going to drag this back into this other track that we have set up over here. And I'm going to set the slice by to transients again. So now it's sliced every single transient individually. And you can see that if I hit play here, it's actually going to play through the loop, because the MIDI file that we've created is per transient. So this is one of the really powerful features of Ableton. And maybe I'll just turn off all of these things first. I know that this is the main sort of core loop that I want to loop over. And I'm just going to make a slight variation in here. So after a little bit more experimenting, I've created this little variation on the 4th bar here. Nothing special. Just a bit of a variation to give it a bit of difference every time it loops around. Okay, so the next step now is to layer our breakbeat loop. So I really like this breakbeat loop, but I think the kick drum is a little bit light. So I'm actually going to EQ out or filter out the kick drum here. I do like the sort of top of the kick drum, but the bottom, the low end, I'm gonna create a new kick drum. So I'm just gonna layer that. Oh, I like the low end of this sample here. So I'm gonna pull it in, and now what I'm gonna do is make sure that the kick drums are playing at the same time. So I'm gonna program the kick drum of this sample here to be in the same spot as this loop. It's not gonna be too hard to do because the loop is very repetitive at the moment. So something like this, and then something like this. And I think I might actually layer up this kick drum as well. I want to look for another one that has a little bit more sort of character in the top end. So let's have a look. That one is nice. I sort of like that top end sort of texture that it has. And so again, I'm just gonna EQ or filter out those low frequencies so you can only hear those top frequencies like this. Oh, I've done it the wrong way. Yep, that's what I want. And then that's a nice sort of retro feel. So I'm liking the sound of our loop so far. It's got a nice bit of weight to it now with that kick drum layer. So I'm actually gonna layer one more thing, and that is a classic aim and break. I'm gonna put that in here. It's currently out of sync. And so I'm just gonna hit warp twice and go to this BPM, segment BPM, and match it with the actual segment BPM, which is 165. So 165, and that should just warp it in time with our track. I'm also going to go to Complex, maybe Complex Pro. Loop over this section. I'm just going to use the top end of this Amen because I just want a little bit more energy in the high frequencies. And I might also just grab a ozone imager and just spread this out so it's got a little bit more width. So from this point on, this is where your style comes into play. You know, we've chopped up our breakbeat and we've got this nice loop, we've layered it up, but now the musicality comes in, and this just completely depends on what style of breakbeat music that you want to be making. I've been listening to a little bit of Prodigy recently, so I think I want to make something sort of 90s retro-esque. So I'm going to use some retro synthesizers and see if we can achieve some sort of retro feel with this. I'm going to go for a bass line and maybe use an SH-101, a classic bassline synthesizer. This is what it looks like. There's heaps of different emulations of this online if you want to get your hands on one of these. But again, the project file's in the description if you want to just get the samples of this and follow along as well. Maybe just put in some notes as well. So one of the classic melody writing techniques, you know, sort of around the 90s era, is they would just sort of transpose chords around and have sort of kooky notes, stuff that isn't always in key. And this was just a style at the time. So if we listen to this sort of melody that I've written here, that's all well and good, but if I actually transpose these notes up one semitone, it's going to be a little bit more dissonant, and it's going to have that sort of retro feel. Let's have a listen to this. I really like that. I'm also going to sort of play around with this patch here a little bit. Okay, so we also have this gap in here where the bass line kind of stops, right? And I'm kind of thinking that we could have some sort of sub in there or some sort of bass line tone. Just going to type in sub. Let's have a look through these. I think this one is nice. So I'm going to pull this one in and make a MIDI clip just over the length of this bar. Maybe something like this. Something like this. I'm thinking this actually. And then I just want them to like sort of glide into each other. So I'm going to pull this glide amount up and maybe just sort of tweak these as well. Maybe bring this up. Maybe bring some resonance up. Let's have a look. Maybe don't need so much release. And a little pro tip, what you can do is I'm just going to make another note here and then put the velocity all the way to 1, and you won't really hear much of this note, but it will glide into the next note. So let's have a listen. I think that sounds cool. I'm just going to make the exact same thing over here, but maybe do a little bit of variation. Maybe something like this. Okay, so I'm thinking I might try just be really simple here, and I'm actually just going to layer this bass line with, I'm thinking the M1, the Korg M1 organ tone, which is a sound that should be familiar to everyone in dance music. This is the Korg M1 VST, and this is a great plugin for those retro vintage tones. It has heaps of the old school Korg M1 patches. This is the one that I was talking about, the organ bass. This one should be familiar. Now I'm actually just going to, I've literally just duplicated these MIDI notes and laid them up here. So let's have a listen to this. Maybe with the bass as well. I think I might actually just put this up an octave. Maybe I'll just delete this second half as well. And I think I'm gonna build into this. So what I might actually do is just duplicate this section over and then put this like here and duplicate it again. And this is like me trying to introduce and building into this section. So now I've got this drop. So this is kind of going to be our drop section, right? I can put a locator here and write drop. I could even just insert some space here as well. So I'm just going to hold Shift Command D and sort of duplicate, and that'll nudge everything over at the same time. And maybe one more. And then, so this is our drop, and we're sort of developing this idea here as well. I might also bring the aim and break in when this M1 layer comes onto the bass as well. So it sort of goes like this. It just lifts the energy as well, which is nice. So I'm just going to color this, and then maybe after a few repetitions, I think over here, I'm just gonna make it repeating twice the amount now. And I think that I might actually just keep going with this layer vibe and do another really old school technique, which is just simply turn these notes into chords. What I can do is if I go over to the MIDI effects and get the chord MIDI effect, we can just make a minor chord here. So if I go to Shift 2 and put that up 3, and then this one up 7, it'll turn them into minor chords. So let's have a listen to this. I might also shift these up an octave as well, just to give a bit of separation from the last one here. And I'm just going to rename this M1 chords. I think also it might be nice if I just reduce the actual length of these chords. So just make them a bit shorter. Maybe I can put a bit of reverb onto this. And let's have a listen with the M1 layer as well. So So one thing I'm not going to be doing is mastering this track today. If you do want to learn more about that side of things, then go check out our new course that's just dropped. It's called Mastering for Producers. I'll leave a link to it in the description below. Now we kind of have this drop section sorted. Very simple progression. We can make some adjustments a little bit later. I think I'm going to work on just a little bit of an intro section over here. So I'm just going to duplicate this, maybe this whole drums and bass section. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm also just going to move this over so it goes into this drop. I think I'm going to delete some of the drums here so we give ourselves a little bit of a break. And you know what? I might actually delete this bass group here, because another really retro sort of technique to do is the sort of old school songwriting. They would often just change bass lines entirely, like not so much progress on the bass line that you already have, but just completely put a new bass line in there. So I think I might design a bass line for the intro just out of something completely different. And I've got something in mind as well. I'm thinking a Reese bass. I actually have one that I've made in the past, my homemade Reese. Here it is. I am just going to literally do the same progression as this SH101, but maybe I'm just going to change the notes a little bit. So, and let's go something like this. Maybe we could even take this note out and just extend this one for the second one so it's a little bit subdued. We don't want to give too much away, right? And let's duplicate over these sub things as well. See how that goes. I might actually try pitch these down an octave as well and see how this goes. That sounds better. I like the feel of that, because this is down an octave and it's a little bit more laid back, subdued, and then it'll give us a nice variation when we go into this as well. Those sub things will like come up the octave and be more pronounced. In Prodigy, they love their sub drops, you know, those sub boom drops. They're really easy to make, so I'm just gonna make one in Serum here. And let's see how quickly we can do this. You just need a sine wave, and I'm gonna change the LFO shape to something like this, and then map the LFO over to the coarse pitch. Option, shift, and click. Let's reverse this modulation so it goes down. And why we want this reversed LFO shape is it enables us to actually determine the start of where it starts to drop in pitch. Right, I'm also going to turn this onto envelope triggering mode. So if I hit one note, it's just going to trigger once. And then I'm also going to turn the BPM off and make this a little bit longer. So I've just tweaked it a little bit more and also added this EQ8 here. So you can see that it's taking out those really low frequencies around about 50 Hertz. So it doesn't sort of muddy up that real low end. And let's have a listen to this in the context. I think this is really nice. Cool, so I'm just gonna color both of these orange. So now just for some pads, I think I want some ambience in here, in this little intro section. So I'm gonna go over and actually use a preset, this dusty sax ambience. And I made this earlier. I didn't really make it. It's just a preset from the M1 again. And it's this dusty sax preset. You can find it in there somewhere. It just sounds like this. But what I've done is actually just muted these two voices, so it's just this fantasy voice. It sounds really lush. Let's hit record. Something like this. Maybe I'll just move these over a tad. Sounding good. I think I just want one more ambience layer here as well. And I'm gonna look in maybe Operator has some really nice pads because of the sort of FM-ness of Operator. It just creates some really nice textures in their pads. That one could be nice as a layer. All right, so I've just got these MIDI notes here. This kind of just sounds like this. That sounds pretty cool. I might actually just grab this first section like this. I think this just needs some processing as well. So out of simplicity, I'm just going to go grab this filtered modulation. I also think it might be nice just to add some noise to this dusty sax ambience. So I'm just going to grab the erosion device in Ableton and use this. So let's have a look. Maybe duplicate it and add some wide noise as well. That sounds nice. One thing I've noticed here is that the tails of these, of both of these, are quite long, and they sort of just ring over onto the drop. I'm just going to clean up those tails. I just want them to sort of sharp snap just straight off here. So I'm just going to mute them and just automate this mute switch to turn off here. We've got a little bit more work to do, but this is sounding better. Wow, that's cool. It is actually in key with our track as well. So let's have a listen to this. Bit loud. I think this could be nice to sort of transition into this breakdown here. I'm just going to notate that. Turn it down. Maybe put some reverb on it. Maybe just delay as well. Let's have a listen to this. I might put it here as well, maybe like reverse it. I think I want something that's sort of just going to build into this drop here. Thinking that I'll actually resample this sub drop here. So put this onto resampling mode and record it and then just reverse it. Hit R here to reverse, drag it over here, and let's have a listen to this. Sounding a little bit better. Maybe I can just bring the drums out as well, just to give a bit of notice that these drums are going to come in. I think I might just drag this bit out. Lastly, I'm just going to do the start of this like sort of breakdown section. I think I'm just going to grab a filter. Maybe I could leave these last two kicks in as well. And then lastly, maybe just a few little variations in this section. Alright, so after a few more tweaks, I think this is sounding pretty good. Let's just have one little listen through this section here and see if there's any adjustments that need to be made. Otherwise, this is sounding pretty good so far. Awesome, so that's the track breakdown today. I hope you've enjoyed and learnt a few things. Just again, to recap, most of Breakbeat is really about the actual breakbeat itself, right? The drums and how you're going to slice up that breakbeat, how you layer it with other things. You know, I just stayed simple here, and then all the rest of the musicality, it just comes down to taste, personal preference, and sort of what genre of breakbeat that you're trying to make. So again, if you want to access this project file here, I'm going to leave a link in the description below. If you've enjoyed the video, remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Otherwise, thanks for hanging out, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.